Hi, I'm Sanira Madani, and I'm a mom of two, a daughter of an immigrant, and an unlikely entrepreneur who went from scaling an idea to $1 billion business. Yes, $1 billion business. Along the way, I learned that less than 2% of female founders ever hit 1 million in revenue, and I became obsessed on a mission to change that. I believe that there is so much gatekeeping in business knowledge, and that we as female entrepreneurs should be learning from other female founders and leaders who have broken the statistics. Since I never went to CEO school, I've had to learn it all the hard way, but you shouldn't have to, because we believe that you deserve to have it all. And honestly, nothing bad happens when women make more money. Grab a seat because class is officially in session. Welcome to CEO School. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the CEO School podcast. I'm your host, Sanira Madani. And if you're watching this right now, you might be wondering why I'm holding my microphone in my hand. And Carlos, our amazing podcast manager, has convinced me that this is what all the cool kids are doing on podcasts now. So that's what he told me in the morning. We're on our final episode at Your First Million Live. And I'm super excited to introduce our next guest. But literally, as I was picking up the microphone again, and I'm like, explaining to my guest that, oh, this is like what the cool kids are doing. And I'm like, wait, is this what the cool kids are doing? Or did Carlos just forget the handhelds for the microphone? And I don't know. So I'll be checking in on that later, but we'll pretend that we're cool kids today. And speaking of cool kids, I have a really cool friend today on the podcast, someone that I have known for many years, someone that I have admired and respected and have had so many amazing opportunities to even work together with for CEO School as well. I am talking about my friend, Danielle Canty. Danielle, welcome to CEO School.
Oh my goodness, I am so excited and I feel this is long overdue. Like, how is this the first time I'm coming on your podcast?
How is this possible? I feel like, you know what it is? It's like the people that you're closest to, like we're always so busy doing all of the things that when you're actually together with people that you're with, you're like, don't make it about business, I guess. And like, we just have not done it. It's insane.
I know, right? And sometimes I always like think about this too. Sometimes you, with your closest people, it feels weird when you ask them. You feel like you're doing a favor while they're doing you a favor. And so I just never do that either. So then I'm like, almost some of my closest people, I've not even been on their podcast and they've not been mine. I'm like, I should change that.
We should change that. And I don't think it's necessarily a favorite thing. I truly think it's just, we're so busy in all of this stuff. And also like, this is what you should have your friends on first. So we really do have to flip that. And I do think it's happening a little bit more for me in the event space. Like you're coming out to speak for Millionaire Founders Club.
Cannot wait.
I am super, super excited. We are curating a group of 60 plus 7 and 8 figure women. It is not a retreat, by the way. So it is of course going to be a retreat, but it is going to be a network. Like I am super, super excited to go the anti-mastermind. And I've been doing retreats for so long now, these 7-figure retreats. But one of the things that for this next year with all the stuff that's happening, it's really about cultivating the right like network that is not just at your level, that is just understands like and truly collaborating, like creating a network that's collaborating.
You know what? And I think there's so much power in this. And I'm glad we're kind of jumping into this side of things already because, you know, you and I are really passionate about helping women make more money. And whenever I think about this, I think this is what's been missing a lot of the time is like access to each of those Rolodexes. Like so often, like, you know, my dad, he had a business, like he would go and do deals on the golf club, right? It's like that whole kind of like, where do deals happen for men and who like traditionally run the businesses and where do they happen for women? And most of the time, like, you know, women end up meeting other women maybe at the school drop-off or at other places or fitness, and it's not actually in these curated environments. So I think it's just so powerful now that we're in an era where we can unapologetically show up and be like, hey, let me introduce you to someone. Let me help you out in this way. Let me open my Rolodex to you. And I really noticed this actually when I was going through my divorce a couple of years ago. I realized that it's so often and I think you realize this in lots of different ways, it's personal or it's business, but you grow up with friends from school and you have certain things in common. But then ultimately, when you start building business, you have different challenges. And so one of my challenges was going through a divorce when I was in my early 30s. Nobody who I knew had access to a divorce lawyer who was used to dealing with equity in a business that is then all of a sudden measured on a, valuation, and you don't have that cash in hand. And I think that was when I first realized hang on a minute, there are such advantages by being around other women power players, being around other women who have, oh, I've had a divorce, let me give you my divorce attorney who helped me with this. Or, hey, did you know you need to look up this before doing anything? Like, all of these different things come from like conversations where women support women. And I think when we do that, we get so much further. And so I'm excited to come to Nashville and, meet everybody, and then also understand other people's experiences and how they can impact mine as well.
I agree. And I think it has to be that mentality, right? So what you talked about, it also doesn't just happen. Like, you're not talking about, we should be talking about all the things, personal and life and business, because it is all mingled. Like, life and business is commingled. So whoever said business isn't personal, it's the most personal thing that you do. It is absolutely the most personal thing that you do. And you have to have friends that understand you in business and in life too. And when you can find a room that is doing that, it's not just going to happen with a one-off meeting. It's not just going to happen with a Zoom. And as much as I love our digital communities and things like that, it's hard to really make meaningful connection.
Deep connections.
And you have to have, in order for you to also receive, you have to give, you have to be vulnerable, you have to make the asks. And it's not going to happen. We as women aren't just going to come in, let our guard down and be like, oh, hey, by the way, I'm going through, a breakup with my, with my divorce, and I have equity and he's my business partner, and anyone else dealt with this. It doesn't happen on the first conversation. So I really do believe that your network is your net worth. It is it. And that is really the goal for MFC. And you're always been part of my network, which has made my net worth even more greater. Whether it's on the P&L or off, right? And I think that we have to really leverage that connection, because you're totally right. Deals happen in person, and I want to create rooms where $1 million deals happen. And that's what we're going to do. And speaking of $1 million deals, something that you and I both are super passionate about, not just helping women make money, but specifically around the 2% statistic, right? Less than 2% of female founders ever break $1 million in revenue. In 2020, when I heard that statistic, I read it in an article in Forbes. That was the first time that I read it, and a mentor from Ernst & Young, I was part of the Winning Women class in 2019. She shared that article to our Winning Women class. And that the Winning Women in Ernst & Young, the requirement to be part of that was $1 million business, or that was the requirement. So we called her our fairy godmother. That was the first, one of the first mentors that I had. And she was amazing. And she shared that with the group. And I was like, wait, what? I had no idea that this was such a, that the percentages were that low, and it was so disheartening. And at that point, our business was probably 10 million in revenue, and it wasn't easy, but we had gone through it. I'm like, why is this? What makes us so special? And I realized it was my network. It was, I had male co-founders. We had this amazing, we had built the network, but I had access to, we were venture backed by that point. So I had access to the conversations that were taking place in the portfolio companies with the venture capital rooms. And I was just in different circles. And this is what is being missed out on if women are not going to, we're not even getting access to capital.
Yeah, because how many people are in those rooms? How many other women?
Zero. There's no women in those rooms. But I think that the connect for me really took place of, we're not even getting capital because the investors say that your business isn't at a point, because we're not even at $1 million. So every stage that I was on, every conversation was about venture capital, but to solve even the gap of venture capital, we have to make it to $1 million in business. Otherwise, we're not even a real viable business. So I'm like, this is what has to change. And that is the thing that I became obsessed with. And that is what you are also obsessed with. And so you have this amazing newsletter. It's called the 2% Club, where you are also cultivating the growth in that.
Yeah, and I'll just rewind a second on why I founded that in the first place, because, some of you may or may not know, but I founded a company called Boss Babe.
Oh yeah, we didn't even talk about that. Oh, by the way, I just assume everyone knows you. This is Danielle Canty, founder of Boss Babe, one of the most, the original digital creators, where you brought in community, one of the first communities for women in business. So that was your background, and you recently exited this last year. So we need to talk about that background, but we'll go back to it.
Yeah, we'll kind of circle around all the things. So I founded Boss Babe because I was an ambitious woman, and I was actually a chiropractor in the UK at that point. And the reason that I founded it was because I went to my peers, who were all men, and I said to them, hey, I want to grow this business more. And I was actually a stakeholder in it. And I was really wanting to we were the fastest growing primary healthcare brand in the UK. And I felt like I could contribute more. And the CEO and, I guess my boss at the time, I was like 20, maybe 25. He was like, I'm really worried this ambition is just going to I don't want you to get disappointed when you don't achieve it. And I was like, wait, what? And I just sat there and I felt like, would he have said this if I was a guy? Like, would he have said if like one of my colleagues went to him and said like, hey, I want to grow this business more? Would he have said that?
Yeah.
It was such an odd thing to say, particularly when I'd already got the busiest clinic and I doubled revenue and tripled profits within a year. Like I was doing all these things. And that's why I was like, well, hang on a minute. I've done this in one of our clinics. Why don't I just roll this blueprint out across all of them? And so I was sharing with him these things and I was talking about going online too. And I mean, that was some of his responses. Like we did a lot in the businesses, but he at some point said this to me and I thought, this is so odd. And I realized I felt really lonely as an ambitious woman. And so I fast forward probably like 2 years or 3 years. I then met my co-founder, Natalie, and we founded Boss Babe, which was really about posting unapologetically ambitious quotes about why you could have it all. The things that you have to remember, this was kind of 2018, 2019. So we had a lot of virality because of our quotes. Not many people were doing that at that point. We were kind of very much saying like, hey, start a business, like control your own income. If you want to earn $1 million, go and earn $1 million. Like no one and nothing should stop you.
Yes, we all had them, like all those quotes all over our feeds.
And in that time that we founded Boss Babe and, posted that, I really felt like we were at the forefront of a movement because at that point in America, so prior to 2018, women businesses or formed women businesses made up something like 20% across America. That's all the businesses that were founded by women. Now, fast forward to 2022, that marker actually hits around 43%. Mm-hmm. And I really love to think that we had a huge part in that. And that kind of then spurred my next journey, which then became like founding the 2% newsletter. Because after I exited that, I was like, well, this is great. Women are founding businesses every single day now. That statistic is improving. But hang on a minute, it's kind of effed up that only 2% of women's businesses are getting to the 7 million mark, because I love working with women. I find women particularly smart. I really see how they juggle motherhood, and this is no shade on men, love men as well, but I'm like, this makes no sense to me.
I know,
like,
and you're a new mom, by the way, and you're on the other side. Oh my God, he's so cute, Romeo.
He's super cute. Well, I'm sure he'll come up. And I realized that, hang on a minute, this is just plain wrong that this is happening. And so why is it happening? And so I really wanted to create, after I exited Boss Babe, I know you'll relate to this. You kind of go through this period where you're like, okay, like what next? And there's kind of this period where you're not sure what next. Like, you're kind of like, you need a little bit of time to think about that. So I was like, what am I going to do in the meantime? And so my meantime was like, hey, let me give back to women all the things that I have learned along the way. And let me put it in this free newsletter that's going to help them on that journey. Because I wasn't a born entrepreneur. I really wasn't a born marketer. Like, I didn't find marketing easy. I thought that marketing was this art that, some people had it, some people didn't. It was like this really hard thing to understand. But actually, marketing is a science. Like, if you put a countdown time on your checkout page, you're 50% more likely, to get that to convert. If you shorten the checkout page, if you add a sales page with the checkout, like Amazon did, that's why Amazon did their whole change where you used to see a product for sale and then have to go through to checkout. Now you just buy now on the side because it increases conversions 24.9%.
Wait till Romeo gets older, because now your kids know how to order things by themselves on Amazon. And they're like, they know that the yellow button, I'm like, just add to cart. Like, do not buy it, add to cart. But they're like, no, but we can just, add to cart. But your kids will buy now.
Exactly. And so I realized that, through observing like what I had been through, my challenges that I had to overcome, I was like, hang on a minute, let me help more women do this, because it is just plain wrong that only this many women's businesses are at 2%. And hopefully by the stuff that me and you are both doing, we can increase. We can look back in a couple of years and be like, okay, now that's 20%, that's 30%. And we contributed to that, because I'm like you, and I really believe that the world will be and would be a better place if women were if more money was in the hands of women and we were contributing to decisions, because it's really important. In fact, I was just on obviously just speaking about having a baby, my ads now on Instagram are completely different, like what I get served. And if you had a Frida, I'm sure you have, because you're
yes, because it's the nose thing. You suck the boogies.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. All moms know.
There's an electric one now, by the way.
Oh, see, my kids,
I don't have to do that.
But everything is now, so you don't have to suck it anymore?
No, I don't know.
I had to suck my kids' boogies.
No, I'm not doing that.
You would do it if the
electric one.
If the electric didn't exist, you would be putting your little mouth on that little red thing and sucking little brown nose boogies.
So any new mothers out there, you don't have to do that now. There was new inventions, but Frida is a really, really popular brand. With motherhood, they have Frida Mom, they have Frida Fertility, and wow, I'm just plugging this. I have not even invested in this company, but if they want me to be. Anyway, the reason I talk about this is because they have just launched a uncensored campaign. And I realized that when I was pregnant and kind of like looking for this information, a lot of the stuff on pregnancy, and I had to have a C-section and all of these things, it's censored. Like you can't actually view content very easily. But so I'm like trying to look up, they just did this post today and they were saying, why is this censored where a woman is giving herself an IVF injection into like her butt and her thighs all on show, but this other butt is available?
Yeah, all the butts are available.
Which is like, you know, if you are that way inclined, you might get some pleasure from seeing. So it was like that whole conversation around like, why is this existing and why does this happen? And if we have more women in the seats of power that dictate these and show like, no, other women need to see these pieces of information. Other women need to see X, Y, and Z. Like, I do think it will create a more level playing field for everybody and just get better knowledge out there. There's another reason why women's health is so far behind men's health. Like, come on.
Yes. I mean, we can literally talk about how much lag there is in every industry for women. And the only way to change that is when women are at the top making those decisions, making those products, making those services. I say this all the time to the women at CEO school. Like, they have to succeed. Like, every single one of you that has started a business that is in whatever sphere but is doing something, women, I never find a woman just being like, I just started a business for the sake of starting it. You're starting a business because nobody else was solving that problem. You were so sick and tired of it. Nobody was listening to you. They were treating the customers like crazy. And you're like, there has to be a better way. We solve real problems. And so it's not about the $1 million mark, right? That's just a metric. But it's really about, if we're not going to get there, we're not going to succeed as a society. And it is imperative that your business succeed because we're solving the world's problems as women. Like, our businesses are actually shaping the way future generations are going to live in this world. And hopefully we can change it to be a better place. And I do believe that even as crazy as like the world is so crazy right now, there's not any women at the top making decisions, whether it's politically at sea. We're just not. We have to make it to the top. We just have to.
I think sometimes too, when we do things for other people, we're more motivated. And I think that's what really we get to like talk about in like the business conversations. Like you're saying, most women start their businesses because it's actually purpose driven. It's like the number one. The US, when you actually file a business, or like they did some questionnaires afterwards and they said, why did you find your business? And the majority of women said purpose, which again is kind of what you're saying. Like, they're seeing a problem, they want to fulfill it, and it's on their heart. And I think when you can really align your why to that, it's much harder to give up when you know that you're making a change for other people versus yourself. Like, it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, if I take my baby weight, for example, right? I'm like, oh yeah, I really want to lose the baby weight, but it's just me. And it's like, okay, well, I'll do that tomorrow. Like, do I want to cook tonight? No, I'll do takeout, right? But when it's like, okay, like you're having this baby, you're hosting a group of women, like they need you to like review their stuff, etc. Do you show up for it? Yeah, you do, because it's about other people versus yourself. And I think that's what I've noticed a lot about women founders, is they really care so much about their customers, their communities, when there is that purpose-driven side to it. And if you can align on that, then there's so much power in it.
It absolutely is. And I do find that is how we as women operate. And sometimes it's also okay. You can also have freedom of dollar and be guilt-free as well. Sure. You can have freedom of dollar and be guilt-free.
All that is, and I think that's also the thing that we get to like overcome, is because money in the bank is just people impacted positively. Like, that's all it is. It's just energy. It doesn't actually, the more money that you, and I think that's something that a lot of people need work around, because I grew up personally in like, like a money is bad mindset. Like, oh, evil people have money. Like
Yeah.
I grew up in a place where if you had a Mercedes, like just a general like German car, you were rich. Like that was like, you made it at that point. And so, and you hear these conversations, whether it's parents or schools or wherever you're around, when you're in these areas, that, hey, like if you're running a lot of money, you must have done something bad. You must have screwed someone over to be able to achieve that. And that takes a lot of rewiring to be like, actually, no, when you earn a lot of money.
Or you're naturally a show off. Like if you have money, you're like, you have no like right to like, you're the things that you have.
Exactly. Whereas when we can actually see that as actually, if you have money, all it is energy, and you got it in exchange for putting something out into the world, making the world a better place, like doing those things, then it becomes much easier to be like, welcome that in and do more good with it. Like, okay, if I have money, I can choose to support charities. I can choose to invest in companies, who may have not got funding before because, their gender or their diversity, I think having those conversations and starting to think about, the impact that you can have with it also is then, particularly with things that align with your values, also is then kind of like you can use that as a catalyst to spur you on.
I fully agree with that. Now, in order to get to this next phase in business, right? So a lot of the women here, we're all striving to get to that 2% mark. You are, the marketing whiz, like that is what you do best. And I know that we always talk about different things that are taking place in marketing, and marketing changes like the core of a business. It doesn't matter how passionate you are about it. Your why can be amazing. Your product can be fantastic, like Nose Frida. The message can be super like amazing. But if you can't market it, we're not going to get into the hands of anyone. So let's talk a little bit. I'd love to get a little tactical on, and it changes so much. So what's happening in 2024? What advice do you have for women that don't have huge budgets and that want to get, want that reach? What are the places that you're spending time and energy on as a marketer?
Oh, I love this question. So I think it does depend on what kind of industry you're in as well. So I'm just going to preface that. But let's just start at like what marketing is. Okay, marketing really is communicating a message. And I always like to talk about there are 5 stages of awareness that someone goes through before buying your product. So first of all, they're unaware. Okay, they have no idea that maybe they even have a symptom. They have no idea that any problem that they have even exists, right? Then they have pain aware. So they're okay, now I know that this actually is a pain. This isn't normal, that I'm okay. I ever had you on another podcast previously. You spoke about your wrist. You just thought it was normal for a long time and was like putting up with it, right? There's loads of different examples, but it's like, okay, now I understand I have a pain. Then I'm going to be like, okay, how do I find a solution to this pain? Like, I'm going to start understanding that, okay, there are companies out there that help me. There are products out there that help me. There are services out there that could help me. Then you have product aware. So you're like, okay, I'm deciding like, this is the one that I'm going to need. Like, this is the one that's got the most research backed. And this is the thing that I ultimately want to buy. And then there's most aware, where they actually like buying. But the challenge that I see with most companies is they talk to people on the 4th stage, which is their product aware. They're not aware of your product. And so people are like, okay, come buy my thing because it does this, versus like, hey, are you suffering from this issue? Is this a problem? Like your new company Worth, I didn't even know that was a problem, right?
Yeah.
And so the point is, if you're just like, hey, I've started this new fintech company that does
get your business credit score.
That does does this. Okay, so what? Like, I don't know how that impacts me. And so that's the biggest challenge that I see, or the biggest thing that I see mistakes being made with most marketers or most companies or people leading companies is they don't meet their customers where they're at. They meet them where they're at and they're already entrenched in it. And so I think the biggest gift that you can kind of give to yourself and your team sometimes is going to be like, okay, why did we found this business? Like, what was important for us when we did this? What were the problems when you guys were like building? Yes. Yeah, like I know you built this from pain that you guys had. So like sharing that story, because people are then like, oh, hang on a minute, that is the pain that I had. Now I understand why I need this. And so that's the number one thing. And then where you share that message, I think, is really important. So the unaware and the pain is very much like how people find you. So that's going to be your social medias, or maybe Google is how people find you. But then they also need to know, like, and trust you, which is then where you have to give the testimonials, where you have to give the guarantees, where you have to be seen on multiple platforms, or maybe seen with someone who they see as an authority. And so I think that a lot of people, I started by saying that marketing isn't an art, it is a science. And people have to see things often it was 7 times before they would buy something.
Now it's like 20 something.
Yeah, because we're literally ingrained in short form content. But like, if you think about that and then go, okay, so if I have this message, where are they at? And then how do I spread that in the places that those people are at? It becomes much more logical. But the problem is a lot of us do business emotionally. Like you said, it is personal. And so we think that, okay, if someone doesn't buy my product, they don't like me, or my product's not good enough, or any of these reasons. But actually, it might just be how you're communicating that and how you are getting that message out there. So the biggest thing that I've learned over the years is just to be like, okay, marketing and data, they are like, they have to go so hand in hand. And the biggest skill set that you can learn is to try new things and not worry and not attach your self-belief, not attach your self-worth, not attach how smart or not you are to the outcome of that. It either is, it just works, or it doesn't work. And if it doesn't work, okay, all that is a data point. Let's just try something new. And if we go back to the 2%, I personally think that is probably one of the biggest mindset shifts that stands in the way of most people scaling their businesses. I think that sometimes women do attach their self-worth to their business. They attach their self-worth to their success and their money in their bank account. And when you get tied to that, it really stops you innovating and trying new things. And it's much easier for you to give up versus to get back up again, because it's too painful because you see it as a failure, but it's not a failure. It's just a data point. And when I think you can pull out from your business that far, that's when you can really innovate and try new things. But it's hard. And we have to hold ourselves accountable to that when we want to succeed.
And you have to take risks, right? So in order for you to try, it's called a try. Like, you have to try. And trying is just taking a risk. And like you said, just pull the emotion out of it, right? And pulling the emotion out of it to say, hey, we're going to give this a try. What are the areas that, going back to the tactical, like what should we be trying?
So I think right now, or if we start on maybe like social media, for example, because everyone's like, oh my God, like how can I grow to all of these followers and do all these things? But social media is shifting. Like, if you think about 2010, so 2010 was, the really hard Facebook era. Facebook existed because people wanted direct connections. And as, Facebook started to figure out their business model, as they were like, hang on, how do we monetize that? It shifted from direct connections and a chronological like feed to, hang on a minute, we need to put engaging content at the top. Like, we need to get eyes on this more consistently. And that shifted again in 2020 when TikTok came out, and then we became in these like rapid like content loops, and you're basically just striving for attention. And that's been great. But I think where we're at now, as we head into 2024 and 2025, is that people want deeper connections. They're tired of the superficial. They're tired of the, hang on a minute, just like, like the whole reason when virtual events were amazing in COVID, but now actually people want the deeper connections. People want the in-persons. And so my advice to any companies is not to necessarily be so consumed, particularly if you're going after your first million, your first few from that, but don't be so consumed by reach, but focus on deeper connections. How can you build email lists where you own it more than you do on social media? Or how can you build communities where it's on another platform? It might be behind a paywall or an email wall, but people can engage in that conversation, because what we see is a lot of loyalty in brands. Most people will go back to the brands that they love. And so if you can serve the people that have already trusted you, if you can deepen that connection with them, have a more guaranteed be able to reach them versus social media, if you can be able to add on products that are going to service them in the long time and increase your LTV, that's actually what I think is the better focus. You increase your profit margins because you're not going to go after brand new customers all the time, and then build in like affiliate programs and referral systems where actually you're spreading the word around that. And because the cost per lead now is so much higher, I don't think businesses can survive if they're not doing these kind of back end, like the back end support of the customers that they already have.
I fully agree with you. I think that marketing has fully shifted, and gone are the days of buying that lead and converting that lead through whatever. And there's a nurture process. It's not sustainable though. So it's not sustainable. It takes a very long time to build from awareness to that customer, it's a very hard process to do. It's not like it can be done. It's just costing you a lot of money that you don't need to be spending. And I'm not saying that ads are bad, like not saying that you're not going to use advertising to retarget your customers or really nurture those like the loyal followers or your email list or whoever's engaging. But I think it comes further down the funnel than it does top of the funnel. And I think that's one big shift that's taken place over the last several years. Two, I think one of the most important things that has shifted is we're not buying. We're 21 times, whatever time. We're completely like, my kid knows how to ignore an ad faster than like, you want to ignore something, like you want your kid's gonna love this, like literally, or when he's watching anything on the phone. Like give a 2-year-old a phone, they will know how to like skip an ad like immediately. So no one sits through, like we all know we're being sold to, and no one wants to be sold to. Even the 2-year-old knows that he's being sold to. So we're not there, but people still buy from people. And so how do you actually cultivate that connection, which just requires more work? So what's also happened is that there are not only, I think marketing has also shifted, but the saturation and the number of companies, like you are not unique anymore in what you do. Like you're just not. Like every single person has, like if you don't have a competitor, like there's not one person that can say, I have this very novel thing. And if you think you do, you don't. Like you don't. And
or so you do, and it's a really bad idea.
Or it's a really bad, and there's a reason why no one's doing it. But you're not like, there's so much saturation, but people will buy from brands, not from just like the product or service, right? And so it is important, what you talked about is bringing them outside of like, how do you build that community element into your audience, wherever that lives. And that could be from social, that could be on email, that could be then retargeting with ads, but you have to build that connection and you have to build that. And that is the only way that real like brands are going to survive in this next little bit. I don't know what's going to happen 5 years from now, but right now, if you are not cultivating a connection and having community with whatever the brand is, whether we're launching a tech company, it is now important that we also are active on. This morning, I had a QBR. I told you this morning, 6:30 a.m. I'm in PST time. My CMO literally had TikTok on our growth strategy and I'm like, a tech CMO literally has written the words TikTok on his growth strategy. And I'm like, I'm proud of you. But it is real. Community is important.
And I think that's the communities are built on values. And so if you're talking about how does a brand really stand out, it has to have values, and you have to be able to stand by those values. Ben & Jerry's is one that's really famous for like being very outspoken about its values. But if I go back to even this conversation, why did I mention Frida? It's not because I was thinking about a nasal sucker during this interview. I mentioned it because they had a value that's like, hey, it is wrong that we are censoring these conversations that women need to hear. Like, this is not something to be censored. This is natural. This is normal. This is a process that 50% of the population are going through at times, and they do other stuff outside pregnancy. So like, I just think that you have to be building businesses on values, and you have to be able to turn down things and say, no, that's not aligned with our values, and risk sometimes alienating some, but then you stand by the other people. And then outside of that, bringing those people together. Like, one of the things that I have done since I left Boss Babe is I co-founded a company called MemberUp, which is a community platform. It brings together content and community because of that reason. Like, it doesn't matter what kind of business that you have, is quite often if you can bring your customers together in a certain place, you tie them together with their values, but you actually bring them, and they, I don't know, for you guys, if you were like, hey, we want to bring business together under Worth, all these, people who are looking at their credit scores and have conversations around that, then that also brings more loyalty.
It does.
And people want to belong at the end of the day. And that's what I was saying, is if you can get deep connections, if you can bring people into a community, what do people do once they're in a community? They introduce new people into the community because like, hey, this community is amazing and I want you to be part of it. So I think thinking less mile wide and in 1 inch deep, and going more. Wait, this is my baby brain kicking.
No, it's fine. I love the baby brain. It's really about going deep versus going
mile
wide.
Inch deep, inch wide, mile deep. There we go.
There we
go.
This
postpartum brain. I'm 3 months in.
There we go. No, and it's super true. It's all about really owning your vertical as well, going deep within that vertical, owning your niche, owning your audience, really authentically connecting. That's what building a great brand is all about. And then that's when the money will follow, right? It will follow because you're doing something right. Danielle, it's been so fun having this marketing conversation with you. Where can women follow you along, learn more? I know we have more to follow up on. So this is just part one.
We should do another part.
We're going to do when we're going to be in Nashville for Millionaire Founders Club. We will then for sure do take 2 on this and get to hear like your true backstory. We did not get to talk about all of the lessons that you've had in building your first successful business. So we will do that. Where can women follow you today to actually at least get into Danielle's world?
Yeah, I love that. So I'm on Instagram mainly and just Danielle Canty. And then from there, I also have the 2% newsletter, and you can find that in my link in bio, or you can just find it at danielle-canty.com/newsletter.
Thank you, Danielle, for being on the show. It was so fun. I can't wait to follow along on all the things. I can't wait for you guys to follow along on all the things. I hope you enjoyed today's show. And if you did, tag Danielle, tag me. We'll literally be following along on all of your comments and learning more from marketing from Danielle. All right. Well, I will see you guys next time on CEO School. Thank you for tuning into today's show. If you loved it, leave us a review. We are so proud to bring you authentic conversations, game changer expert guests, and valuable content on and offline. The best compliment you can give us is by screenshotting today's show and tagging us on Instagram at CEO School and at Sanira Madani. We are obsessed with swag, so don't be surprised if we want to send you some. Thanks for tuning into class today, and remember, nothing bad happens when women make more money.